Thank you, Natasha. Well, hi everyone, and welcome to our seminar today on both sides of the curtain. As Natasha said, we've got our lovely and very talented Tracey Owgan with us today from Image Cartel. He's going to be sharing some very valuable information and knowledge with you today on competing. In fact, we both are. So we hope you'll be able to take a lot away with you at the end of the session today. And, share in Tracey's experiences that she has had over the years. I've known Tracey for many years. Tracey's worked alongside me with the professional beauty competitions, and she's always been an amazing support to the competitions, to me, and just generally, she's a nail guru, icon in the industry, and an absolute expert. So without any further delay, I'm going to hand over to Tracey, and I'm going to ask Tracey, would you like to tell us a little bit more about what it is that you do, Tracey, and a little bit about your background?
Cool. Thank you, Sonette. Thanks for asking me to join you today, and welcome everyone. I hope this will be a really good informative session for you. So I'm Tracey. I've been involved in the business for approximately 20 years. I'm head educator and co-owner of the Image Cartel. And my story on how it kind of began 20 years ago, I was previously involved in interior design and decorating. And then I changed paths and went into skincare and nutrition. And that was really cool for me. I really enjoyed that side of learning a different industry. And we joined a multi-level marketing company. And luckily I won a convention trip that took me to San Francisco, and it took me to the head office of where I learned more about how the skincare product was developed and the vitamin supplementation. From raw ingredients, how the raw ingredients, where they were grown for vitamins. We went through the laboratories, which was really cool. We had our masks on, our jackets, behind screen glasses. But I was actually, at that stage, saw how they developed vitamin B, a sustained release vitamin B. And we were able to meet the nutritionists and the professors and the chemists. So my passion kind of grew there from quality of brand and quality of product and how products get developed. And when we came back to South Africa, because we traveled through Africa, we went to Zimbabwe and Zambia, Botswana, Mozambique. People said to us, instead of traveling and doing your skincare seminars that you do in your nutritional talks, why don't you open a salon? And my mom, being a former beautician and hairdresser, we decided, let's do this. So I went to college and I studied beauty therapy. And along that journey of studying, my mom's like, why don't we do nails? And I was like, I'm not doing nails. No discrimination, but for me, I perceived it as being for stupid people. You know, people that were like bored housewives, or just, they just, that's how I perceived it. And I thought, well, we come from the professional background. I'm not doing this. So I said to my mom, I will train with you, because she needed to just back me up and I needed to back her up. And once I got training, I was like, there is more to nails than just what people perceive. We all know that in the nail industry, even today, if people ask you, what is your career? And you say, well, I'm a nail technician. They're like, okay, what do you do for a real job? And we are perceived in that way. And that's how I perceived it in the beginning, which was very wrong. It's a really incorrect perception of what we actually do. And so I got involved in the nail side, but I said to Mom, I'll train, but I'm staying in beauty therapy and skincare and manis and pedis. And I'll do art because I love and I have an art background. And 20 years ago, we had stick-on tips with the flowers and the little pictures on. Those tips we stuck onto the nail and we put an acrylic clear overlay, or we just painted on some gel. That was all we had, and fiberglass. So it was a very limited industry to be in at that stage 20 years ago. It's nothing like it is today. And then what happened is my mom, she went on holiday, but before she went on holiday, we were feeling a bit strange, like a strange headache, strange sarcastic feeling, respiratory, we had some problems. And while she was on holiday, those problems went away, those symptoms. And when she came back, so did the symptoms. So we realized there was something in our product that we were using that was not cool. And we did some investigation, and we ended up joining an international brand, and we found out we had methacrylate acid and MMA in our products. And back then, that was like, who knew about those things? And that led us into getting involved with an international distribution company and getting to learn about the products and learn about what ingredients go into products, which I'd learned in my skincare. And that for me is where my passion grew. And I realized by getting involved internationally that there was so much more to nails and such a deeper aspect about the nail industry. And that's where my love came from.
There we go. Wow, Tracey, that's quite a start. I mean, who would have thought that you'd end up where you are today? I know you've had quite a journey in the nail industry, and you've had some real highs and some real lows as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, yeah. So I was very blessed. As I said in the beginning, I didn't believe anything in nails, and then I fell in love with it as I started to progress through my journey. And yes, we were involved with a brand for 18 years, and I was really blessed in that way. We started with this company, and we took on their products, and I fell in love with the product. And I saw, thank goodness for them, when they came and did training, they brought in an international nail artist who was doing art. And she started building 3D objects with clear acrylic. And I was like, what? This is amazing. So that's where I started like really getting a passion for nails. And luckily for us, we took on the distribution for South Africa, and I was able to go to Europe. And so for the past 18 years, I've been truly blessed to be able to go to Europe 3-4 times a year to advance in our education skills and to learn. So all my education has been done in Europe. And that was really a great journey. And that was really a high for me, being able to work with so many international artists that are like gods and icons in the nail industry, and to be able to sit in the same room as them. So that's a huge highlight for me. Some of the lows is that as a nail technician and you start learning, and as you begin from a novice and you start growing and you want to better yourself, and sometimes the more courses you go on and the more you advance, you think, oh my gosh, I can't do nails. What am I doing? But it's because you're growing and you're learning and you're developing. And I think the more you practice and the more you invest in yourself and in your education, that will take you to the low seasons and help you to advance and better yourself. And that's where you grow.
Absolutely. As you said, you've had the privilege, traveling internationally and working with some absolutely amazing, well-known experts in the industry. One of them being David Fowler, who I know is a true mentor to you and who you are working with still very closely. How has that influenced you and your career?
Yeah, I think it's really important. I see so many people in the industry, they get involved with nails and they're like, great, I've done a nail course, now I can do nails. And it's not about that at the end of the day. There is so much depth into nails. And I see a lot of, even with my students in my academy, they're like, oh, we have workshops. And they're like, oh, actually, I learned how to do it on YouTube. And I'm like, you cannot do nails from YouTube, seriously. We know we edit those videos so highly that you can never learn. And that's so important to me. And I've been blessed. My whole arm list on my CV, I can name international educators that I've worked with. And I think it's important for you to grow in every aspect in the nail industry, because it's so diverse. It's like hairdressing. You continually have to update yourself to the various trends and techniques that are available to us, and you can never stop learning. Every couple of months we get new techniques, new styles, new product development. And I think working internationally with the educators like I have, and I'm truly blessed to have met David Fowler and Stephanie Fowler. My very first time I went to Europe, I worked with an international artist called May Wong Kim and Miss O, where they taught us 3D flowers. And then I've worked with people like Natalia Yukupchuk, who taught me 3D faces. And we have like Pamela Thompson, she was an international star for airbrushing nails, and Beata, who they airbrush trucks and cars and motorbikes, and then they teach you to do nails. So it's really amazing to get different people's personalities and their education styles and skills, because we all have our own signature and we all have our own passion and what we do. like for me, I've become acrylic baby because my acrylic is my absolute passion, although I still love gel. And I think it's how you work with those people and how you learn from them and how you take what they teach you and you develop it to yourself. That's really, really, really important. And having to work with these people. And that's what I also find important as being part of an international brand. As an educator, or a distributor, every year you have to go back and do your exams, internationally exams. Every year you have to redo them. You have to qualify, you have to grow. And I find that really important. And having to mix with these people from different countries and learning how different styles of work is done in different countries and different educators is really, really important as part of growth techniques and skills.
Yeah, Andrew and I was talking about just the same thing yesterday, Tracey, talking about having your own signature style. Everybody's unique in their very own way in how they do things. So correct. One of the things we were saying is you can't take a piece of nail art or anything that you see in a picture, image, or even on Facebook and try and really replicate it exactly the same to look the same as someone else's. No. So many different people can take that same piece of art and actually turn it into something completely different that Absolutely. Has their own unique style to it.
Yes, that is really important. I mean, my clients know they don't bring me Pinterest pictures and all these pictures. I don't want to copy someone else's work. I'm not there to be a copy of someone else, and I don't believe any of us are there to be a copy. We need to be unique and we need to be ourselves. And I think once you get deeper into your product knowledge and you get to know your product, you get to know your brand, you get to know how product works, which is hugely important. You can develop your own style, you know. It's about teaching yourself and knowing exactly how does my monomer work? How does my polymer work? Most people don't even know polymer comes from monomer or how monomer is developed. And, you know, and it's about learning techniques and combining them together and creating something that makes you you. I mean, I sit in front of one of our, like Stephanie Loray is at Fowler. Well, Loray at that stage, when I first met her, I was like, wow, she's incredible. And her and David got married, and I've worked with them since they've known each other over these like 12 years. And I remember us back then, and I remember them looking at their nails, and they're like, used to pick up all their faults. And as a new person at that stage, you're like, what are you looking at? Your nail looks amazing. And now working with them for so many years and how they've taught us to look in depth of your nails and to look at the details of the details of the details. And even if I sit with like an educator, which is mind-blowing, Yvonne Foyt, she's on our team, and Yvonne is a master at gel and painting and hand painting. And if I look at her, I'm like, wow. It's like, but I can't be an Yvonne Foyt, and Yvonne can't be a Tracey, and I can't be a David or a Stephanie. And that's important, that we need to know that we grow ourselves in where we're comfortable and we're passionate about. And we can, I mean, I fell in love with 3D work, as you know, so I excel in 3D work, and the more complicated the design for me, the better I feel I excel at it. And everybody has to grow into that and find their comfort zone and their space, but not stay in their comfort zone. They have to grow through their comfort zone.
Absolutely. And I think that's why ongoing education is so, so important. As you said, nails isn't just about, you know, putting some product on the nail and creating a nail enhancement. There's so much more to it, and it's ever growing. How important is ongoing education on an ongoing and on a regular basis in this industry? I think a lot of people think they can do nails or do a course in maybe 2-3 days, learn, and that's it, off they go, and then learn the rest from YouTube. But what are they actually missing by doing that and not attending proper training and also ongoing training once they actually know how to do nails?
Yes, I think it's important. The first aspect is learning about the product that you're using and learning how it works, learning the in-depth things like the ingredients and how the ingredients make the product work. Because at the end of the day, if you know how your product works and you know your correct mix ratio, for example, which is also important. So it goes from ingredients and knowing your product to mix ratio to technique. And a lot of times people will look at a video, for example, or sit in a class, but they're just seeing a nail being done. They're not watching how is the educator sitting, how is the educator's arm placement, how is their hand placement, how is the brush placed in their hand, how is the hand being held, is the finger flat, is it facing downwards, how are they working laterally, how are they working distally, proximally. Some people don't even know what I'm talking about right now in their nail techs, which is quite scary. So it's, as I said, it's looking at the details of the details and then breaking that whole training down into, as I said, product knowledge, how your product works, and it's about practice, and it's about really learning technique. And once you're looking and working with technique, then you have to work about structure. You have to know correct anatomy of the nails, anatomy of the finger, which is really, really important. So diseases, deformalities, that's really important as well, which a lot of people don't know how to work with different types of nails they get in the salon, different types of nail beds, different wishes from their clients. And then it's going into those details, the details of structure. And the most important part as well is structure in the end of the day. I mean, that's where my whole incorrect perception came from before I started doing nails was, oh, well, you just put on nails and then that's what you do. It's just like I slap it on. And then I can go back to my nail tech in 10 days because I'm a nail biter or I pick them. And it's really good to have challenging clients. I have a very challenging client, Yvette, and she always teases, even on Facebook the other day. But I love having clients like that, because you need to break every single part of that nail down into a different aspect to make sure that she doesn't come back in 10 days, that she can walk 6 weeks. And when she comes back and has a maintenance done, or a refill, rebalance, whatever she's having done on her nails, or whether we're taking it off and putting a new set on, that her natural nail underneath is healthy. And those nails, when she leaves the studio, they look like beautiful, elegant, natural, sleek nails. You don't want to see the nails from Mars. You know what I mean? You want them to be natural and beautiful. And that's what it is about at the end of the day. It's not about slapping products on. It's about working correctly and preserving your products, hygiene, technique, control. You don't have to file all the products off at the end of the day. It's about working correctly. And there's so much more into just putting on nails.
Absolutely. That's just so vast. And everything that needs to be incorporated in making sure that you are, producing a professional end result for your clients. And I think most importantly is not compromising the integrity of the natural nail in the process, because I think that is something in our industry that is a major concern, is a lot of nail damage that is occurring due to improper application, improper removal, things like that, purely because a lot of people don't know, or they don't understand what goes into the actual natural nail and how the natural nail works. And I think unless you know all those things and how important that is, as you said, with regards to, diseases, disorders, all those things, you are going to end up having issues and having problems. We had Tracey Owgan Intl on a few weeks ago, and she's an absolute expert in nail anatomy. It's a passion of mine, and so it's product chemistry, as you were talking about earlier, Tracey. What have been some of the most memorable moments or highlights in your career?
There are so many. I think some of my highlights are working with international educators, that are icons. I'm very blessed, I must say, to have done that. So that's a memory that is sitting in class with people that you can just sit there and knowing that they're teaching you everything they want to teach to help you to be better. That's very memorable. And having my mom alongside me as well on a lot of my international travels is very memorable. Her being in one class, me being in another, and being able to build this business of ours together has been very memorable. And I think just learning more about all the people in the industry and how the different cultures in our countries work in regards to being in the nail industry has been, I think, my biggest highlight. And winning my first international competition. That for me was a true highlight.
How many you've entered many competitions over the years,
Yes.
Tracey. I know that, and I've spoken to many times. We've said, I'm getting on a plane tomorrow, I'm off to wherever, and doing this and that. How many competitions did you enter into, and sort of what pushed you to do your first competition before you actually won a competition?
Well, my first competition I entered, I did win. That was very fun.
You did win?
Yes, but so
wow.
we were overseas. Thank you. We were overseas in Holland, and we were working with about 30 different countries, distributors from 30 different countries, and they showed us it's a box with the 3D art, and 3D and acrylic being my passion. I was like, okay, this is really awesome. And they said, let's have a tip box competition next year. And I'd never ever entered one. I'm like, what? But they've taught us competition training and they teach you judging. So I thought, well, what's there to lose? I have nothing to lose. So I came home. It was in May, and I told everybody I'm entering this international tip box competition in a year's time. And within a few months, they will give us a theme. So I desperately waited for the theme. And when it came out, I'm like, good, I'm doing this and I'm going to win it. And so from the very minutes I heard about it, I had told myself I'm going to win. So I think that's what was important, is throwing absolutely everything I had into this tip box. And it's also about learning, as we said earlier, about your product and the skills of how your product works. And I would sit there at midnight, and I would educate during the day, and I would go right through the evening till 2, 3 in the morning. And I remember some nights I'm like, I just want to cry. I remember my first competition, I strategically, we chose it. They opened it up for us. So they never gave us a specific theme. They gave us guidelines to use and rules to follow. And I knew, being South African and international, they all love our wildlife. So that was my strategy behind there, is wildlife. And I remember one night sitting building a zebra. And I'm like, how hard is it to build a zebra, right? It's like, I sat down and did a leopard in about 30 minutes. A 3D leopard, and because I was just relaxed, I was just chilled out, I thought, let me practice. And I remember having nights where I was like 4 hours later, and I'm like, I'm not doing this. I've got one day and I leave for Holland and I haven't finished. But you know, if you push through those, when you get to that stage of that low, that is one of the lows, where as soon as you sit there, and I was actually talking to Tracey Lee about the same thing the other day, about being in a class and being in training where you actually just sit there, you cry your eyes out because you're in a harsh boot camp where they take you and break you down to the bottom to build you straight up. If anyone's been in David Fowler's class, a boot camp at David Fowler, you know you're going to cry, and you're going to want to pull your hair out, and you want to just want to run away. But it's those stages that take you to growth. And I pushed through that. And I went in prepared, and I ended up winning, which was like, wow, out of 30 countries. And then the second competition I entered the next year for tip box, I chose marine theme because I love seaweeds, this is sea life. And I won again, which was quite amazing, from 40 countries. And so that was really cool. But, and there's a lot of preparation in terms of your portfolio for tip boxes as well. But then David and Stephanie, they came to do professional beauty. And they had a competition. We had, our professional beauty competitions. And Stephanie was like, okay, you're entering tomorrow. And I'm like, don't be mad. I'm not entering a competition like that. Because I was comfortable sitting at a table every year demonstrating. So that's why I said, get out your comfort zone. And I remember Stephanie saying, come enter. And I'm like, I'm not prepared. I'm OCD. I'm perfectionist. I have to be prepared. So they pushed and pushed and pushed. So I went to a training with David and Stephanie in Germany with Tracey Lee. Tracey was at school with me, so I know Tracey Lee very well. And I remember being in a competition class with them, doing that for David. And as I said, there were days we cried our eyes out. But it was really David and Stephanie at the end of the day that encouraged me to enter competitions. And I entered a competition at Professional Beauty. And yes, I didn't place the first time. And then I ended up winning 7 firsts at Professional Beauty, I think I have. And there are times where I got placed second. And, that just entering a competition for me is not about competing against other people. It's about bettering you and seeing how you can push yourself and how you can grow as a person and better every year at everything you do. It's about bettering your previous best. And it's a good learning curve not to win. And, I am the type of person who enters something to win. I have to come first in a class, or I have to win, or I have to I'm OCD about those things. And it's good to lose a competition. It's good for a person to enter a competition to know how far they can take themselves and their boundaries and grow as a nail technician. It's not about anyone around you at all.
Yeah, I think what you've said there, Tracey, is really, really important. You're only as good as the last set you've done,
Absolutely.
And one of the things that Andrea mentioned yesterday as well is that, you will do a set and then you will look at that set again and go, oh my goodness, what could I have done better? I could have done this. So you're always looking at improving what you've already done. Nothing
Absolutely.
you've done is ever 100% perfect. And I think that's the thing, is being able to look at your work critically and to take, constructive criticism towards your work and go, hey, okay, this is where I need to actually be able to fix or to be able to improve and perfect my work. It's about that
absolutely
striving for absolute perfection on an ongoing, regular, constant basis. Just from a point of view of entering a competition for the very first time, and something you said, which really rung home for me, was that you won your first competition, which is quite a surprise. Not everybody does, and I think that's amazing. However, what was the key thing, for that? You said preparation. Preparation, I think, is everything. And then with the other competition, you said, no, you're not entering because you felt you weren't prepared enough. So, what goes into that preparation, and what advice have you got for first-time competitors, or even competitors who've been entering for years and years and years and are not getting to the level where they want to be? There might be something missing, and it could well be to do with, are they well enough prepared?
Absolutely. I think that's what I took from all my training from these years and working with people who are champions already in their field. I've taken from them, and it starts with, first of all, self-belief, that you can believe in yourself, that you can do it. That's where it starts. And having that passion, you need to have that passion inside of you. And when you're preparing, it's not like I'm going to enter a competition and it's next week and I'll start preparing. You need to start preparing months in advance for a competition. You have to, as you said, work on yourself. And something I believe that's really important that I see as even when I'm judging a competition, when I'm looking at my fellow teammates, that are on the competition floor, is it starts with your table. It starts from how you're actually working in your salon. I think if you work in your salon environment as if you were working in a competition, although studio nails and competition nails are completely different, but they're like totally different. But if your preparation, your sanitization with your clients, your disinfection, the way you keep your table, my students know in my class, I'm very OCD about table setup. So, and you have to work neat, you have to work tidy. And if you're practicing all of those types of things on a daily basis, it becomes natural to you. Your table always has to be neat and tidy. And so preparing for a competition is at the basic levels of hygiene, sanitization, as we said, correct table prep up, knowing what you want to work with. So if I want to enter an acrylic competition, or I'm doing a 3D fantasy, you need to know, you need to have a checklist. You need to break it down into little bite-sized pieces. it's like when they're building the Sistine Chapel, for example. You have to break it down to the details and the details and those details of the details. And at the end of the day, as I said just now, for boot camps, it's like they break you. So you think of like a stained glass window where there's little pieces, and we take the little pieces and we build up that stained glass window into this magnificent thing that will become at the end. And you need to visualize entering a competition what you will see as your end result. So you work from your end result and you work backwards to your starting point. I think that's huge. And at the same time, you need to look, as I said, table placement is very important. Knowing your product, knowing your technique, advancing your skills as somebody that's beginning. You cannot enter a competition you can enter it at a basic level, but you need to be able to understand what you're doing, understand the rules that are set up by the competition, the regulations that they give you. A lot of time I find that also entering, you have to understand the rules laid out by that competition so that you can feel safe and comfortable knowing that you will get through that time period. And every time you're working in your studio, you work on your prep. You work on whatever application you're doing, whether you're sculpting or you're doing an overlay or tip application. You will be working yourself to better your times, to better your skills, to make sure that you're there, you're comfortable in working, and make sure you just go faster and faster, and you jot it down and you analyze yourself, you break that nail down into where I can better myself. And I think as soon as you start bettering yourself, as you say all the time, it will prepare you for a competition. And a lot of people are terrified, and I don't want them to be terrified. I remember, like Stephanie said, let's go sit and do a competition. I was like terrified. But you know, if you think about bettering yourself, and just the mere fact that you sat in that seat to enter a competition is really awesome. And I always commend people for entering a competition, because it's about advancing yourself as an artist.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just taking that plunge to compete on itself is you know, you can reward yourself for that. That
Absolutely.
is just amazing to take that and you know, just jump in the deep end and do it. But it's not a matter of just jumping in the deep end. As you said, you know, that preparation is so important, and planning absolutely everything. I mean, they say if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And
Absolutely.
I mean, what goes into that planning as well, Tracey, there's quite a couple of things. I mean, you need to make sure that you've got, as you said, number one, know the rules and regulations, read them through properly and thoroughly, understand them. And if you don't understand, ask. One of the other things is your product. Make sure you have a proper packing list of exactly what you take it.
Hugely important.
You know, there's
you set your table out as if you're going to the competition. I mean, even with myself, you go to a competition and you realize maybe the plug point is too far away. So you need to, to take an extension cord, take your own bin, take everything else that you need, take extra 2-pin plugs if you need to. You need to pack it out as if this is your space. And if maybe, the competitor hall, maybe they have some electrical issues, that you can resolve that yourself so that you are fully prepared. Get there early, practice at home and go into different places. Don't sit at the same table and practice for a competition. Move yourself into different areas, and so that when you're in the competition area, that you're completely comfortable in working in any space that is not your comfortable place that you normally work in. I find that also important as for a new person. And also don't face, in a competition, we have people who can view our competition and watch us. I always will never sit watching the people. My back is always to them. So that when you're sitting at the table, it's only you and your model, and you're focused. And you go into your zone and you can work. And it's only about you. Block yourself off to the rest of the world, and it's only working and bettering your last set of nails that you did.
Really important not to get distracted. And I think a lot of the time, people are worrying about what the next person is doing. The person next to them, or in front of them or behind them. Don't worry about what anyone else is doing. Focus just on what you are doing. Because that is what's important at the end of the day.
Yes.
you know, with regards to also, and I know, Tracey, you work with a lot of different mediums, but I know your absolute favorite to work with is liquid and powder. And, you know, liquid and powder can be quite temperamental, as we know, with regards to certain temperatures, and your mix ratios can change. Can you just share a little bit about that? Because, you know, there's quite a lot of sort of, how can I say, maybe hearsay or advice that people give people to do to get their mix ratio to how it should be. What have you got to share with us about that?
I think it's also when you're working with your mixed ratio and you're in a competition. I remember sometimes being a professional beauty, and Gallagher Estate, they had the doors wide open, the loading zone, and then you had this freezing cold air come in there, and you have to be prepared for that. So you have to be able to also keep your client warm and you warm at the same time. You don't want to be shivering yourself that you can't work. I know that I did a rapids training last year with David, and he turned the temperature down. I think it was like -10, not really, but it was so freezing cold, and I was like, what are you doing? But he was testing us, so he always does something to, you know, behind, you know, to get to see. And that's really important. Temperature can play so many roles, not just with the liquid and powder. Temperature, if it's freezing, it can bring out people's bad attitudes, their anger. They can get irritable with themselves if things aren't working. So I think while you're practicing for a competition, you have to be able to work in a warm room as well as to work in a really cold room, because you don't know how your product will react if you don't know how your product works. And it's about mix ratio, picking up a bead that is not, as like they say, cellulite and filled with powder and dry. You need to know correct mix ratios and correct temperatures. And it's not about sitting with hot water bottles and having your you know, hot blankets and all these type of things. I think it's more about knowing exactly how to pick up that bead, how to work on a client in a cold environment, how to keep each other warm, how to keep yourself warm. So even if your hands aren't freezing cold, you don't want you to have freezing cold hands, but you have to be able to adapt your mix ratio. You can't work too wet either, and you can't work too dry. So you want your bead to be really glossy and shiny at the end of the day. And when it sits onto the nail bed, it will self-level on its own. You don't want to be able to work in an environment where it's so hot it runs, or you know what I mean, or you're working so wet then you're flooding the cuticles and the lateral side walls. So it's really important that you pick up the correct ratio and you know how your monomer and your polymer work, you know, and how you can work with that in different environments. And if you do that in your salon, you should know how to work in winter and how to work in summer. And I think that's all about education. And it's important about having education training for competitions before you do a competition. I think that's really vital, that you come to a class where we teach you how to change your mix ratio, how to change your bead, when to brush clean, when to, you know, to clean your brush correctly, and when not to clean your brush. There's so much more involved with your brush and your monomer and your polymer working on a daily basis, never mind a competition where there's speed. And we teach you that. So education for competitions, I think, is really, really important.
Absolutely. Tracey, with regards to your model, how important is it that you choose the right model? We don't have people with absolutely perfect nail beds, natural nail beds or natural nails walking around.
Yes.
You know, they're quite difficult to come by, as I'm sure you well know as well. And you see some competitors arriving at the competition with nail biters or models whose nails are in a bad condition because they've just soaked nails off. How important is that model? Not just the condition of the nails, but that partnership that is created between you and your model as well.
Absolutely. It's very important. I think that's one of the most important things. You can't have a nail biter. And that's something David taught me, and he does a lot. Wherever we go, he watches people's fingers. And when I'm standing in a supermarket, for example, you want to look at people's nail beds. Keep your eyes open for somebody that's got really beautiful long fingers. long natural nail beds, like 16 millimeters or longer, even up to 18, 19 millimeters. They are very rare to come by. David calls them landing strips. So you want to look for somebody who's got these beautiful, long, elegant, natural, healthy nails, as well as really nourished skin. You don't want to have beautiful nails and her skin is not nourished. You also, and it depends what type of competition you're entering into. If you're entering photographic competition, you want to find somebody, yes, with beautiful long nail beds, but they also have to look aesthetically pleasing. So they need to look after themselves, their hair condition, their skin condition. That's really, really important. I mean, before a competition, we will do manicure, paraffin manicures and dips on their hands. We will make sure that they saturated those natural nail plates in her cuticle and eponychium and any soft tissue surrounding her natural nail plates. You want to nourish that so much with the cuticle oil, because you know how it is in a competition. We are filing really fast. You don't want anyone that can bleed. You don't want to be able to have hangnails at a competition or, you know, have damaged natural nail plates. The natural nail plate really has to be healthy. And you have to work on your model and teach her. That's really important to build a relationship, even as it is in your studio with your clients. Your clients need to be able to be relaxed, need to know and work with how you work. So if you need to turn their hand and check their hand laterally, they know that you're checking laterally. They know if you're going to check proximally or distally. They know when to work with you. And I think that communication between your client and you is so important. So she needs a bit of background and she needs to know how you work, and you need to know her nail bed, how her structure is, how to work with her. So it's really important that you work on that client before the competitions, but keep that integrity of that nail plate completely healthy, so that when you get to the competition, you know her, she knows you, and you can work in a good relationship with each other. That's
I think, you know, getting a model at the last minute, you know, it can happen that your model sort of, you know, she can't make it or something happens to her at the last, you know, sort of number 99. But I mean, getting a model at the last minute is definitely not going to work for you. It's
and have backup models.
Yeah.
Life happens, you know, they could be in a car accident, anything could happen. So have a backup model in place and they could get sick. So you need to be able to work on different types of nail bed structures, even though they're really nice, long and beautiful, and have backups. And it's really good because you may work on one model and then you find that there's something that, you know, you're not quite happy with, that you need to resolve, and you need to make sure that you're practicing. You can't enter a competition in a week and you've only practiced for 1 week. You basically have to be practicing that competition every single time you sit down at your table, that you grow and work so that you're completely comfortable.
Absolutely. I think, you know, it's not just a matter of walking in, doing a great set of nails and thinking that that's it, you know. Yeah. It's about everything you've just spoken about, that preparation, the planning, your table setup, your model. All these things are so vitally important, and they all work together in making sure that you actually are competing wisely and knowing exactly what you're walking into. Otherwise you're not going to make it, and you are going to put yourself. You have judged in many competitions as well, both internationally and locally, in many of the professional beauty competitions. And you know, there's a lot of things that we look at, and you and I have judged alongside one another in a lot of categories, mainly the nail art categories. But what is it that you look for, and that not just in nail art, but generally? What is it that you look for, and what criteria entails a winning set of nails?
Okay, as we said as well, winning set of nails starts obviously by choosing the correct model, which is really important, and working with her. Having tables set up and being completely organized. Having a winning, I mean, you remember the one time I entered a competition, and I think Tracey Lee was there too. And everything went wrong, from when I woke up that morning. There were traffic jams, the highways were blocked. It took like 3 hours to get to Gallagher, but I got there on time. So I think it says, if you've prepped and you know that you're comfortable in your space, and I remember setting the table up like 5 minutes before the competition started, and we had to take numerous detours to get there. I think knowing that you're self-confident will give you a winning set of nails to start off with, knowing that you're calm, you're relaxed, doesn't matter what happened 5 minutes ago, and then keeping your table in check. I see so many, like even last year, the competition, people had no clue about table setup, and keeping product that is neat, tidy, clean, even your high shining files and your buffing, have a bunch of them with you, have extra products that is only pertaining to that competition to give you the best results. You don't want to go there with one high shiner. We go there with maybe 10 high shiners. You know what I mean? And I think it's integral, as I said, learning and understanding structure of a nail if you want to win, especially if you're doing a sculpted set of nails, or even if it's a tip overlay. It's learning the difference between a studio nail and a competition nail. And knowing your hairline. With a competition nail, your hairline has to be super thin. And I remember when I also first started doing competition nails, and even up till last year, when you want to enter an international competition versus maybe a South African competition, you want to be able to work in a South African competition as if you were entering an international competition. Because if you just want to be average and just enter a competition and you want to go to Europe, they will chew you up and spit you out in 3 seconds. So it's knowing how thin your hairline has to be. I remember sending pictures of David, and in real life, the hairline looks super thin for me. I mean, in the studio, yes, we work credit card thickness. In a competition, it needs to look like a piece of paper. And he's like, too thick, do it again. And I'm like, that's not thick. And it's maybe my angle of my camera and, and how am I working? And you've got to take pictures and evaluate yourself. And it's just about practicing. And girls don't realize that they have to look at the surrounding soft tissue when they're working on their clients in a competition, and working in a progression. You want to have an outline of how you're going to work. And if you just follow your rules of technique of how you're building that nail, and how you're going to build your pinching techniques, your filing techniques, that you want to look at a nail. And I think so many girls don't realize when they're evaluating their nail, even while they're preparing for their competition or working for the competition, if that hairline has to be super, super paper thin. One speck of dust can throw that nail out. And they're not looking at the nail. A lot of them don't realize they're working on it's 3-dimensional objects. They only look at it one-dimensionally. And when you're working on a competition, or even working in the studio, you need to turn the hand upside down. The underneath side of the nail is so much more important, as well as the top. Working laterally, looking at a lateral view, your apex placement, your lower arch and your upper arch placement, your hairlines, your C-curve. Is there any product attached to the surrounding soft tissue? All of that has to be taken into account. So you have to allow yourself time in your competition to be able to finish, so you can fix any dust, fix your shine, all of that type of thing. You have to work at the day. If you're painting, polish. You have to practice painting, polish, so that you don't get products on any of the soft tissue, which is really important. And underneath that hairline has to be clean and crisp and beautiful. Your smile line has to be clean and crisp. Where the end points, where they connect at the smile line, whether it's the deepest point of your smile line, everything has to be consistent. And consistency is the key, whether it's underneath or on top. So that's why I think competition training is so important, whether you're a competitor or a judge, on what to look for. I even remember judging 3D competitions, where we're doing 3D or tip boxes, and you look at the tip box and people haven't checked underneath of their tips, and there's hair sticking underneath there, or there's fluff, or there's dust, or there's excess products. You need to check every single detail of that detail of that detail of that detail to get that nail correct, in order to getting a winning set of nails.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the key. As you said, Tracey, consistency is key, and every single little bit of detail counts. It's not a matter of us just looking at a set of nails and going, you know what, those look great, and looking at them from the top. A great set of nails is judged on, you know, looking at that nail from absolutely every angle, every single detail, from the top, from underneath as well. And that's what the judges do. You could see a great set of nails and you turn them over, and underneath they are covered in dust, or there's product attached to the skin, and that can absolutely ruin it. So what looks great, or as they say, nice from far, but far from nice when you start looking closely at it. You know, you can't just judge by looking once off at something. That first impression isn't always what is going to make that person actually win a competition. There's just so much more into it. Tracey, with regards to nail art, and I know we don't have that much more time, we've got a couple more minutes, is with regards to nail art, there is you know, certain rules and regulations with that as well. Although it's not as tight as with nail enhancement, there's a lot more artistic freedom that is allowed. However, there are certain requirements with regards to step-by-step presentations that are required from competitors.
Yes.
Is this something unusual that is asked for here in South Africa, or is it the same in overseas competitions or international competitions? And, you know, what would you recommend with regards to those step-by-steps?
The step-by-steps are really important, yeah, locally and internationally. I think it's important for you to do step-by-step so that you know your process and you're comfortable in your process and you know what product you're working with, which is key. Even doing a 3D or a tip-pass competition, or when you're doing 3D, knowing what product you're going to use on which nail and what order you're going to use it on, because you have to save time. In having a competition, it's about time, as we know, and being able to work in a regulated manner that is professional and that is smooth and that runs really well. That's really, really important. So having the step-by-step will help you to be organized, that you know what product to put on what nail at the right time. And having a portfolio, you know, a lot of people think, oh, I'll leave my portfolio to the end and I will do my step-by-steps at the end. But you need to know where your inspiration comes from as well in building a nail, and that's key. So when we have themes that set out in our rules and regulations about the theme, what you may use on the nail, what you may not use on the nail, that goes towards your step-by-step in preparing for that. And it's so integral in your portfolio. I've seen people in competitions just have one piece of paper as a portfolio. How on earth is that even possible? My portfolios, I put a lot of work into my portfolios for my competitions. And that also helps in winning a competition. Like the nail file competitions that you guys do, you know, with yourself, with Professional Beauty, your portfolio that is linked to that the nail file competition is integral. It takes many hours to put up those step-by-steps, but then we know as a judge that you were capable of doing what you are doing. You knew that the formats of doing it, you know how your product works. I mean, I list down on every single tip what color I used, what shade, what the code of that shade was, so I can go back if I need to see it again, the name of that shade, exactly what tools I used, what implements I used. Everything is important in your step-by-steps because it helps to build integrity around what you've built, which is completely, you know, we've been in a competitions before where we've seen girls work and you're like, you didn't really build that. You may have put products on top of it, but that didn't come from you from the very first level or very first stage of building that 3D design. And I think the step-by-steps gives you integrity into what you're building. And it also shows you, it's part of your personality and of the creativity. And I think that's really important as well, to make your portfolio and your step-by-steps look really beautiful and help the judge to understand what you have done and how you did it. And it will lead to being all the complexity that went into it and everything advanced techniques that you put into that will help you to build your skills and your reputation. And when you look at your score sheets at the end of the day, you'll be able to reevaluate yourself for your next competition. So I have kept every one of my portfolios from my competition because the next year helps me to build and better myself where I was lacking in the previous year.
Yeah. Tracey, do you have one of your presentations there by any chance?
Yes, I've got some near me. I have different ones. What I do as well is I linked my tip boxes to my portfolio, so that the tip box and the portfolio was together. You could see it. So here's one of my designs that I did. I put them in like a scrapbooking technique because I enjoy doing scrapbooking. And then I would put why I did my beauty, my African beauty. So what inspired me to do this tip box. And then on my other pages, for example, the zebra I spoke about. So I put a picture of the zebra. I'm not sure if you can see it here. So there's an outline, exactly the description involved in every single tip I used and every product I used down in there. So there's that one. Then I won't show you all the pages, we're limited on time. Then I did another one where I've taken inspiration for the Game of Thrones that I did for the 3D comp. I've listed exactly my inspiration, and then step by step, the products I used on every single tip that I used and where I incorporated them in. So I built up the wolves. So every wolf had a step by step, every person had a step by step, what I accessorized, what I placed onto them, and all my inspiration from the Game of Thrones. So I put them into different formats in different books. And I did one as well in Brazil, which we did a few years ago. And the size of Brazil, what drew my attention, what helped me fall in love with it, and pictures of your inspiration, and lay it out neatly, lay it out organized. So each page is a tip that I did in here, all my inspiration, and then was my tips, and there was my step by steps with my pictures and my products that I used. So everything is in order in what you're doing. And I think that's key. You want to match your portfolio and your step by steps to the theme of what you're building, because sometimes you'll see some tips, you see the background of the tips in the tip box even, or as you say in the nail file competitions, we judge the nail file competitions, and somebody's did such amazing work on their tips, and then they fell to pieces on their portfolio. Or their portfolio didn't link into the tips, and then you end up losing points. And you can lose first or second place, as you know, by 1 or 2 points for something so little. So it's about bringing everything in and having it match and complete as one.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt, ladies. Sorry to interrupt, ladies. We do have a few online questions from Facebook and a few questions on the Q&A. So there's one there in the Q&A. Okay. I would like to just have that one. And then there are a few also on the chat from Facebook.
Okay,
I can't see them.
Natasha, would you like to let us know what those questions are? Because we can't.
Oh, you can't see them. Okay, so the first one from Facebook is from Kwabena, and she's asking, Tracey, do you foresee more male technicians in the future, I guess, coming into the industry?
Sorry, say that again. Do I foresee
more male technicians coming into the industry?
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, a lot of the male artists I work with overseas, I've worked with numerous male artists overseas, and like David, for example, and he'll be coming here again to South Africa this year to our academy. And it's really, I mean, it's not a girl-orientated industry or female-orientated industry. Many successful nail technicians overseas are men.
Yeah.
And that's really cool. And I encourage men to get involved in it. And I remember sitting at a stand in Professional Beauty one year, and a really macho guy came up to David, and everyone knows David with his tattoos and his skulls and his chains, and he looks like a biker guy. You never perceive him to be at all doing nails. I mean, he was an ex-cop.
Yeah.
And they're like, and this guy said to him, what do you do nails for? And he's like, well, how many women's hands do you hold a day? And how many women can you make feel better and empowered and feel beautiful about themselves? And so it's a lot more about just being a female in this industry. A man has many artistic skills. And what women want to sit in front of a man and having her nails done, you know, as well. Yeah. So men mustn't just perceive it as being a female industry. I would love to see more men growing in the industry in South Africa.
Okay. Then we've got another one from Nance from Hope Nails. How do you know that the category that you choose is the best category for you? I guess that goes for competitions.
How do you know it's the best category? Well, first of all, I think that you need to feel comfortable with the category. If you feel like you're drawn to a category, pursue it. Go for training on that category. Find an academy that can help with training in that category, and then go into that classroom and help the educator to develop you if you're really drawn to that, into that category. But if you feel like you're not ready, that's why I say in training and education is key to developing you. And like for myself, I think some competitions where there's mixed media, although I love my baby's acrylic, but go to a class that will put you into gel and help you to go through those challenges and figure out for yourself, yes, am I acrylic client? Am I a gel girl? What would I, you know what I mean? What would I like to do? And focus on education in that category. And you will soon find out if this is the category for you or not. But if your education is correct and your educator has taught you correctly, you can excel in any category at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And then we also have one from Cindy. She says, some tips, please, to better ourselves as nail technicians.
Attending classes. You have to attend classes regularly. And also, as I said just now, tips to better yourself is to take that nail and to break it down and to take pictures. Pictures tell you a million things. If you take a picture and you actually zoom your picture up, you will see a lot of your faults in that picture. And come to an education academy that can help you to see your faults and teach you to look for what you're doing wrong. I mean, you, as I said just now, look at your nail from different perspectives. Break that nail down if you have to into 100 categories. Look at your free edge, look at your nail bed, look at your cuticle area, look at your lateral side walls, look at your C-curve, turn your hand underneath. Break it down, write down where you're going wrong. I take pictures of every set of nails I do, even to this day, of before and after, and when she comes back, so that you can problem solve any problems that was happening during the course of that month while your clients has been away. That's key. But education as well is key to upgrading yourself and teaching yourself how to look for what you need to look for.
Yeah. And then we've got one from Andrea Smith. She's asking, if you want to enter an international competition, what advice do you have? Where do you start?
I think you start with doing competition training. That's integral. And having advanced training as well. So you have to build yourself up as an nail tech. I don't know what level she's in, but I think it's important you come for advanced training skills, first of all, that we know that you're building correct structure, because it's about structure at the end of the day, more than it is about the product. Product is key, but structure is of importance. So you have to understand that structure broken down into many, many aspects. And internationally, the standards are extremely high. So that is key, is structure and what to look for. And you're going to have to just practice and practice. So entering it, and first of all, entering your competition in your country is good, because it can align you in your score sheet and show you what level you're at. And then after that competition, then you go for more competition trainings, which I absolutely recommend. And you can't do one set of training for an international competition. There are many. You have to do boot camps. We do them. We're running them through the year, and David will be coming. I mean, he's an international world-renowned nail champion, and so is his wife. They have won many, many competitions. The last couple of years of world championship titles were all trained. Everybody who's won an international world championship title was trained by David and Stephanie. So you go into days and days of training to enter an international competition, but it's an amazing experience. It breaks you down and builds you up to what you are. And I highly recommend these type of trainings and these type of boot camps to get yourself to an international level.
Okay. Just a question to the audience. If anyone has any more questions, do let us know. Any more questions?
Natasha, I just need to make an announcement before we sign off.
Yes, no, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So, Tracey, thank you so much for sharing such amazing and really valuable information. I'm sure many of our attendees today can take a lot back with them and a lot to think about, and to make sure that the next competition they can enter, you know, a lot more prepared, a lot wiser, a lot smarter, and knowing what they're going into. So what I'd like to do before we sign off is I'd just like to share with you the theme for our next nail file photo challenge. And Tracey, as you said earlier, this is something that we introduced. I think we've been running it for the past 2 years now. And the reason we introduced the Nail File Photo Challenge is to make sure that nail techs keep their hand at it constantly throughout the year. And as Tracey said, practice, practice, practice. It's key to make sure that you are continuously, working on your techniques, working on and finding where your niche is, what you're good at, and really pushing the limits in every direction. So that was the purpose of the Nail File Photo Challenge, and we've had some phenomenal themes, and we've had some really, really great entries. And we ask for those step-by-steps in this competition, and that is really also, once again, to prep and prepare you for the bigger competition, so that you know what the expectations are, and to make sure that you actually present those as well. So, besides that, also photos, the clarity and quality of your photos are really, really, really important. Tracey, I'm sure you'll absolutely agree with regards to that. And our next theme is really quite exciting, one that you can really express your feelings, your emotions, and your creativity in. This has been a very difficult time for all of us in the industry, and one that's put a lot of stress on many of us, financially and in a lot of other ways. And I think the best way we can sort of take our minds off things is to create, be inventive, and just work on your work and what you do to improve it. Now's the time. This is the best time to be learning, to attending training seminars, and to experimenting with what you're doing. A lot of people are creating beautiful press-on nails at the moment. Some of you are creating jewelry with nail enhancement products. I mean, that is just phenomenal. So just keep up the amazing work, everybody, and just, let's be hopeful that soon we can open and get our hands back on our clients, and in the right way as well, be well prepared for when that day does come.
Absolutely.
So our theme for our next Nail File Photo Challenge is graffiti nail art, street art. So something really, really cool, I think, as Tracey said, that you can really, really express yourself. We have our Foodies Fantasies theme. That was our last competition, and we will be announcing the winner for that either tomorrow or Monday. But in the meantime, we just thought we'd give you a little sneak peek into the next theme, which is the graffiti street art. And before we sign off completely, I'd just like to say, Tracey, what advice do you have for these girls that are going to be entering the Nail File Photo Challenge?
So go and as Sonette gave you the theme, I want you to go and research the theme and put a lot of research into it as well. And make sure that the storyboard that you create is linked to that research, and find something that inspires you. You want your work to be therapeutic. And I think if you can do something that's therapeutic and calming to your soul in this time of uncertainty and chaos that we have, you will create something really beautiful. And don't overthink. When you're going to prepare yourself, just have fun. As David always says as well, we're not doing heart surgery. We're building beautiful nails, okay? And we're making women feel better about themselves, and we're empowering their beauty within them. So that's what you want to do, is with your art. Empower women by what they see through your art, to move them to another level of one, to maybe your colleagues or your clients will see what you're doing, and move you towards growing yourself as an nail tech. That's really important. So just lay that out and have fun. That's what we're here for, is to really, really have fun and just relax and just do the best that you can and keep evaluating yourself. And when you're doing these competitions and these trips, what I like to do is I like to do one and then I sleep on it. And then you come back the next day and turn it around, turn it upside down even, and evaluate it from a different perspective. And then you'll be able to see, oh my word, this doesn't look right, that doesn't look right, and you're able to go and fix it. So remember, when you're preparing for these competitions and this next challenge that we give you, is look more in depth of what you're doing. Don't just look at the surface aspect of what you're building. Look at the details, look at the depth. How straight is that line? You know, how neat is your work? What is the background look like? Check for neatness. Check, can I make this line straighter? Can I make more detail? But remember, less is more a lot of times. So don't overdo it, which is important, but just make sure that every little detail of that nail is done to your best of your ability. And you can only go from there.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Tracey. Yeah, I think just, you know, go look at your backgrounds. You know, if you're going to build or do a beautiful set of nails, it's not about just building, but it's about the techniques and the creativity that you put in. And with this competition, we give you complete artistic freedom, you know, with regards to what you can do, the different techniques and methods and different products that you can combine together to use to create your works of art.
That's important.
So very important. And also your theme. Let your theme carry through and flow through into every single part of your work. With regards to your presentation, don't just, you know, present us with a plain white sheet of white paper with a few steps written on it. Give us those steps, as Tracey showed you and as Tracey said, so that we know what went into your work. It helps us as judges understand that a lot more and understand what you were achieving. And by doing so, we look at those nails a lot differently as judges, knowing what's gone into it.
Yeah, it kind of pops your work as well. We saw nails in the last challenge that were amazing, but when you look at the background and you're looking at the portfolio, it actually detracted from what we were seeing. And sadly, some nail technicians that entered had lost points from that. You know, and it's just the finer details of bringing everything together and to make the whole storyboard complete at the end of the day. It's like, you know, as I spoke to Sistine Chapel just now, you don't want to have this beautiful stained glass window and then there are other things there that aren't, you know, that are detracting, where you've left some lead on the glass. Clean it off. Make sure that the lines are beautiful, that the whole chapel, when somebody walks into it, you're looking at something with awe. And that's what you want to give your judges, is something that's wow, that's impactful, that is thinking outside the box, that has complete detail and neatness to it. That's really, really important.
I think, as Tracey just said, now detail is so important. There's often we'll look at nails together and, you know, one of us will go, oh, wow, look at that. And suddenly we spot a little detail that maybe someone else hasn't spotted. So, you know, that's what it's all about. It's what goes into that detail, that preciseness, making sure the work is neat, and also, you know, making sure that you put your nails, please, you can't put your nails on models at the moment. So we've accepted that you can actually present them in either a tip box style or on a background or on a frame. However, you know, that's where you can also get creative. The possibilities are endless as to how you can present those tips to us. But do that. Don't just put them on a plain background. Put those nails on a beautiful background that pertains to the theme but doesn't detract from the actual nail. So it takes attention away. You don't want to do that either. That's really, really important. And, you know, the presentation, yes, it counts for 10% of the actual overall mark. Tracey will tell you that as well. But it is an important part of your entry. So just make sure that you put everything you can into everything. And also another thing just quickly is we often also see beautiful nails and there's designs on the nails and there's 2 or 3 nails that have got that we just don't understand where they've come from. Tracey, would you like to just quickly just share on that one before we sign off?
Yeah, you want to carry your design through the whole process. Last month we looked at nails and we were like, what? Because there were some nails that were so beautiful and they had so much detail in them. And next to it was a nail that was just there, if that makes sense. You want to carry a theme through that every single tip has something that is consistent with the tip you did before. It doesn't have to be the same. Even when I'm creating nails in my studio, I carry a theme through. So every single nail is different, but the theme carries through, and at the end of the day, you have a story. So it has to bring it together, because that one tip can lose you a score to put you into second or third place. So make sure you've carried your theme through, and make sure that there's nothing that's like, you know what I mean, that's just like juxtaposed to the other nail, that everything is together, it's held together as a theme. And that's truly, truly important. Make sure that every single aspect is carried through on every tip. And as Sonette said, make sure your background does not detract from the nails that you're doing for us. We want to see your nails stand out, want to see your nails pop, and we want to see detail in every nail. It can be a small detail. It doesn't have to be extravagant, as long as it carries the theme through and it shows us technical skill. That's important. Just putting a dot onto a nail doesn't work. That anybody can put a dot onto a nail. We need to make sure that there's a technical skill in that nail, even if it's just a beautiful swirl, you know what I mean, with some lines. But make sure those are crisp, they're beautiful, they flow, that they work with the rest of the nails on the tip.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tracey. And I think some of the best designs we've seen are those that use a combination of techniques, not just one technique, you know, such as one stroke. We want to see one stroke. We want to see 2D, 3D, embossed, encapsulated. You know, we've got spider gel now. There's just so much available.
Absolutely.
Use it, girls, you know, and use it to your benefit, but in the right way. Be clever about how you use your mediums and how you use your techniques and how you combine them as well.
Absolutely. That's what I found with doing my competitions when I won the 2-tip boxing internationally, is I used every single technique that I could possibly use. So some of my backgrounds were airbrushed, some of my backgrounds were gel, and then I built acrylic on top of them. Some of them I had acrylic background, and I built like a stingray, for example, on the one I had acrylic background with inlay, so it looked like the stingray was above the shells, but I had built that with acrylic, and then the stingray was built from gel, and then I used paints to outline it gently, just to highlight the features. So take the different mediums that you have and use them correctly, so that you've got hand painting, that you have maybe one stroke. You can have airbrushing if you've done airbrushing. You may have acrylic, you may have gel polish, you may have sculpting gel. You can build things with the sculpting gels. So that's really, you know, important. Seeing somebody use the various techniques and then having accessories that are not overwhelming, but complement your design that you're building. That's important. The more techniques you have, the more points you get.
Absolutely. Well, Tracey, I think we're going to have to sign off now, and I'd just like to say a great big thank you for sharing your valuable time, your expertise, your experiences, and your knowledge with us. And also, thank you for all the support you always give, you know, towards the competitions, assisting us with the judging always. It's always great to have you on board working with us. So thank you so much for that, and thank you for what you contribute to our industry. So, you know, what more can I say?
Thank you for inviting me on to the webinar. Thank you so much. It was fun. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you so much. We do have another webinar coming up at 2 p.m. So please do register for it on our website. It will be with Marissa Dimitriadis, and she will be discussing basically post-COVID and what you expect, and are you prepared with your strategies. So please do join us. There will also be a Q&A session with a variety of managers as well, just to give their insights and perspective as to what to look out for. So do join us at 2 p.m. Thank you once again, ladies, so much. We really did enjoy it. I'm sure all the attendees enjoyed it as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.